All right, here we go. We've got an interesting setup tonight for Downtown Orlando UX. I thank Wes for putting together all of this. Like, he arranged the venue, and so he did a lot of work to make this happen tonight and figuring out the topic and arranging the panelists. Got some great panelists from Home Depot and here in Orlando that I'll introduce in a moment. But for tonight, for the March 21st Downtown Orlando UX Meetup, first off, we want to say thank you to our host for tonight, 1010 Brewing here in Orlando. For those of you who are joining outside of Florida, we're in the West B-side warehouse within 1010, and just very thankful to have a physical space to meet in, which has been really tough for our meetup to find a space since we lost the office we used to meet up at normally. As we said when we were remote during COVID, during the many months that we were continuing the meetup going remote, we were very excited to keep our online audience being able to join us. So we want to try to keep anything that's a talk or a workshop, we want to try to keep hybrid and available to everyone, both online and locally here in the Central Florida area. We also just want to celebrate Women's History Month, and part of that celebration is that our moderator and all of our panelists tonight are professionals within UX. They're women in the industry. So very excited for that and to celebrate this month. And then, as always, our mission with Downtown Orlando UX is to create opportunities for anyone to learn and share knowledge about the field of user experience. And so our meetup tends to be a great place for generalists, for engineers, for PMs, for people who are outside of the UX field to come learn more about different aspects of it. So it's a great mix of people who are trying to get into the field and professionals who've been working in it for a long time. And so it's just a great community to connect with and to learn about career opportunities and to grow in your skills as well. And then, as always, UX is a team sport. We've got a lot of people that are involved with the organization of the meetup. Like I said, Wes did a lot of the work to make tonight's meetup happen, but also Amy, our panelist, Matt, who's helping us remotely from home, sick tonight, and Wes too. And then for those of you online, a bit of housekeeping, whenever possible, for your fellow online folks who are joining us on the internet, it's great to have your cameras on. And then I, being over here on the side on a computer, will keep an eye on the chat and look out for questions, try to field some of those to our panelists. Wes will be doing the same. But raise your hand, drop things in the chat. We'll try to keep up with those. And this being a panel event tonight, we'll try to field those and make sure that everyone's questions get answered. So just whether it's raising your hand in Zoom or dropping questions in the chat, either way works. And then tonight's panel, we've got Amy Hazinka, who's a Scrum Master, will be at Landstar, will be running our panel tonight and asking questions to our group of UX experts in the field. And for that, we have Erin Denton, who is a senior product designer at 15.5 over on the side. Let me switch this over to the audience so I can point it at them. There we go. And then joining us remote today, we have Laura Kluball, who's a user experience designer at the Home Depot. Rina Henderson is a staff UX designer at the Home Depot, and Nicole Copeland is a senior UX designer at the Home Depot, and they'll be talking to us today about their journey into the field. So really excited to hear from all of our panelists tonight. And with that, I'll kick it over and get things started.
So yeah, I'm really excited to be here with a whole bunch of lovely, wonderful ladies. We're celebrating Women's History Month and really just overall women in tech. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to talk and share some experiences. And with that, I was hoping to ask each of our panelists if they could each take a turn and tell us why you chose UX as a career path and what path did you choose to get started into the field. So why did you want to and how'd you do it? Erin, would you like to start us since you're right here?
Sure. Hi, my name is Erin. Hi, everyone online and here in person. I let's see, I went to school for graphic design and thought I was gonna go into the print world, but kind of started having a longing for something that was like a bit more evidence-based and like science-based. And I think when I started learning about what UX was and what like product design and development was, and how there was a lot more things like testing and forming hypothesis and stuff like that that went into it, it like really resonated somewhere deep inside me, where I wanted to be creative and artistic, but have like validation and like data behind things. So that's why I found my way moving into UX and product.
Cool. And how did you enter that?
Just like how,
Yeah.
let's see. Well, I graduated from UCF and could not find a job. Worked in a library for 2 years, went and did freelance after that, and eventually just started learning UX and incorporating it into my design work I was doing freelance in. And then over time, that got me like enough practical experience and portfolio examples that I was like, okay, I want to work on the same product for the same company, and started making my jumps like after that into, you know, respective companies and whatnot.
Cool. Thank you. Miss Nicole, would you share the same question of why you chose UX as a career path, and what path you chose to get started in the field?
Oh, so I spent.
Hold on one second.
Hold on. All right, Nicole, I think this is one of the speakers. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hear you well.
Okay.
Try your-
We're good?
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. It's very quiet for this first answer.
Okay. So I spent 15 years in the world of accounting and finance, and I even went and decided to drop 40 grand on a bachelor's degree from KSU in business and finance, and decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. And a friend of mine was in UX at Home Depot, and I had no clue what that was. And he was like, well, you could probably do this. And I'm like, well, what are you working on? And he showed me, and he's like, you should do this. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And he's like, you need to go and do, this boot camp and, go through this program, and Home Depot like funnels out of this boot camp. And so I ended up at Home Depot.
So thanks for sharing. So you ended up doing the boot camp?
I did. I went through the General Assembly 10-week immersive boot camp. I sat in a classroom every day for 10 weeks from 9 to 5 every day.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Miss Laura, same question.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, well, first of all, UX spoke to me. I was in the middle of teaching. I'd been teaching for 8 years. I was teaching middle school science, social studies, and then the last 3 years I taught computer science and engineering. And I fell in love with using the design process to solve complex real world problems. And initially I thought I wanted to go into coding, like be a software engineer or something. And then the more I researched, I was like, that's not enough human interaction for me. I need to actually dive deep and, chat with the user, figure out what their problems are up front before actually designing that. So I did a bunch of research. Nicole Copeland actually was my mentor. She had done some UX work for my husband, who was a business partner at Home Depot. And he was like, you should talk to her. Like, she's very knowledgeable. So Nicole actually hooked me up with some information. And from there, I networked heavily with Home Depot because that's where I wanted to be. I had a lot of friends there and everyone just seemed really happy. So I also pursued General Assembly for the same reasons Nicole had mentioned. Everyone told me that they funneled through. Our senior director hires a lot of people from, or is interested in hiring a lot of people from General Assembly. So went through the same pathway, except mine was a 12-week immersive. So Nicole's was probably even more intense than mine because it was the same amount of content, but condensed into fewer weeks. So Yeah, that's my story.
Rina, how about you? How'd you choose this? Why did you choose this and how'd you get in?
Yeah, so can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, so I too sought out graphic design. I was always creative, always drawing. I thought I wanted to be an architect, but you know, as being a young person, you go through the different things. I wanted to be a teacher, architect, whatever. But it was probably when I learned the term graphic design that I realized probably what I was meant to do at that age. So I sought out a 2-year degree in graphic design because I wanted to go be a designer as quickly as possible. So I did that. But I always, since I was 15, I piddled with HTML code when we got our first computer. So this was a long time ago, very long time ago. But I've been playing with code, for a while. Being a graphic designer kind of lends its way to, oh, I need a website. Can you design it and like put it together? And so I essentially taught myself more development to the point that I became a front-end developer. I was able to apply for different jobs and kind of change my trajectory in my career. It was a catalyst for sure. And so I was still a designer, but I was writing code that eventually turned into more of a prototyper role, but also where I would start asking a lot of questions. As a front-end developer, you're given designs by visual designers who weren't necessarily UX designers, who didn't think through a lot of the states and screens. So yeah, all that said, being a front-end developer, you're given designs by visual designers who haven't really thought out in the same way that a UXer might, because UX was still early when I got into it. So I started asking questions about the designs, like why, or getting into more interaction design, but also flow and understanding the user, like the path that they would go to get to whatever features. So it was just a natural progression into UX for me. I call it organic. So I organically discovered UX and was just naturally doing it. And so the place I was working at the time created a role for me, UX specialist. So that's like my first UX title. And it just gave me permission to really lean into those natural tendencies and develop into that. So I think that was around 2012. So I've kind of been doing the UX thing since then. So, but yeah, that's how and why I enjoy it.
All right, so the question is around portfolios and resumes. So Rina, how much did your education help you with building your portfolio and resume, or did you get advice elsewhere in putting together any of that type of material?
Yeah, so
No, hold on.
testing. Are we good? I think we're good. It's like audio inception explosion. So I've always been kind of a nerd about resumes anyway. So I kind of, using my graphic design, desktop publishing background, just toyed with versions, layouts, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on the layout from recruiters. So I just kind of, at that point, stuck with a particular layout for my resume. So I didn't really get help for that, but portfolio wise, in the beginning, for sure, as a young designer, needing to flex my skill set, my capabilities, like what tools do I use? What did I do at my last job or whatever? Having samples of that, I definitely kept that strong in the beginning. Progressing through UX though, the last handful of roles that I've held, I've really just, I've been able to talk about my process, essentially expose my brain. And that seems to carry even heavier in a good way than a portfolio. So I don't necessarily keep a portfolio now in the level that I'm at. It's probably more going to develop into more presentation skills and how I talk through process and talk through the why behind decisions that I've made and the vision that I'm able to help direct on a team. So I didn't really expect that to happen. And that may not be the same for everybody, depending on the phase they are in their career, but I don't find that I need to necessarily keep a really strong visual portfolio these days. It's more like the UX thinking pieces that I expose.
Thank you very much. Laura, same, do you have any different things that happened with you with building your portfolio and your resume when you were getting first started?
Yes. Is the audio okay? Okay. All right. So yeah, my experience was a little different. I had a pretty robust teaching resume, but I had to completely rethink my resume formatting for UX because it's just the things that are looked at are completely different. So I was actually very fortunate to have a pretty good advisor through General Assembly who really helped me craft my ATS focused resume. So she helped with structuring, different parts at the top so that an ATS or an applicant tracking system can target certain words and won't get stuck on things. So I got a lot of guidance from General Assembly on the resume. As far as the portfolio goes, there was minimal guidance from General Assembly. A lot of that I had to go and talk to other UXers and get their feedback. And I worked on a lot of that by myself. So that one I did mine on Squarespace, and I don't know if anyone actually ever looked at it though. I've got to be honest with you. I'm not sure if that was a huge factor in me getting hired, but the resume I know was at least looked at because it was brought up in my interview. So
Cool. Thank you so much. Erin or Nicole, do you have anything to add as far as building resumes and kind of where you might have gotten any sort of?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Well, when I finished my schooling for graphic design, that was in 2011. So my portfolio was very skeuomorphic and not very modern UX portfolio oriented. It was definitely heavier on the print and web side. So as I started self-teaching UX and started looking at more UX portfolio examples, I just started developing it over time. And I think maybe something that I would add is I always got really concerned about trying to make my portfolio like consistent or like, this is my brand for the next however many portfolios. And eventually I just embraced how pointless that was. And every time I apply for a new job, I just make a new portfolio with a new brand that matches my mood of the time. And I think the important thing for me as a product designer in making my portfolio was really setting it up like a sales page for me, like a one pager, like sales proposition for why I can bring value to your company. And so definitely less of a focus on like flashy visual design and more just like telling my story and the value I can bring to a company. So that, I don't know, that's what I have to add.
Yeah, we can do things. I can ask a question. I had the controls. No one should do that. All right. Miss Nicole, is there anything, any different ways that you may have built your portfolio and resume that you could share with anybody?
I think mine is kind of like a mixture between like what Laura said with, very little guidance with General Assembly of having to figure it out myself and kind of rely on classmates that have more visual experience coming from the world of finance. We did not do that. And now it's more of, I don't rely on my portfolio. I haven't even touched it since General Assembly and going into Home Depot, where now I have enough experience that I can talk my way through my experience and how to explain, the UX process. So, but with my my resume, I have plenty of business background experience that I had no problem with tailoring my resume. So beyond that, I didn't have any other issues with it.
Cool. So, and it kind of sounds like most, aside from Erin, most people have skewed a little bit more into the resume being the more not important, but what has been more useful to you rather than the portfolio. Would any of you say, and I guess maybe I'm gonna mute, but you can raise your hand and whoever can talk first. Has your portfolio or resume, but probably your resume, changed a huge amount from when you first started to where you are now? And anybody can go.
Well, I can just say mine's probably the simplest. I've only been a UXer for 7 months, so mine has not changed. I have not touched it since I graduated. I mean, there are definitely things like projects and things that I could add, but I have not updated them.
Nicole, did you have your hand raised?
Mine has only changed in like title. I've been with Home Depot for almost 5 years now, coming out of General Assembly as my first UX job. So it's just changed in like position where I've worked my way from apprentice to like soon, hopefully working into that next position of staff. So that's like been in the same space and like the same like UX. So
Great. So lots of different, we're going to move into a new topic. There are a lot of different ways that people can learn, grow, connect. We've talked about a few of them. We've got networking versus mentorship. A lot of people may read books or listen to podcasts, come to meetups like this. I'm going to kind of go through each of you and figure or ask you like what did you find to be the most educational for you in your growth journey, as well as what you think kind of like helped you stay on the path to where you got to? And I'm gonna again go with Erin first, just because it's a lot easier.
Thank you. Let's see. I think for me as a product-oriented designer, discovering Teresa Torres and getting super deep into all of her methodology and her teachings was really useful for me. I became, as I got more skills in UX and in product design, I quickly learned how much I love customer interviewing and like facilitating on my teams. And so her whole approach to continuous discovery and stuff like that was just like, I don't know, it gave a lot of structure to like what I was learning, and it gave me actionable things I could like bring into my teams and stuff like that. So I would say for that is the one thing that I think influenced me a lot, at least.
Did you seek out a mentor or any networking?
Yeah. So when I first started, my husband told me about this guy that he worked with that did UX and was like, hey, do you want to come shadow him at work? And so he let me come to his office and watch him do UX all day. And it was awesome. Hi, Matt. And I think that was really helpful too. Coming to this meetup, actually, like I've been coming to this meetup since it started, and I just met like a lot of, I don't know, people in UX and design to kind of like get wisdom from over the years.
Thank you. Funny story, when I was starting out, I took her husband out for beers to pick his brain about how engineering works. So same question, just sort of, you know, different ways of learning. Like what did you connect with? We're gonna start with Miss Laura. What did you kind of connect with as far as your journey? Pause. I am unmuting, or yep.
Okay, yes, can you hear me okay? I believe so. All right, so it's hard for me to choose because I did and continue to do all five. So podcasts, books, networking, everything. I still feel like I have so much to learn. But at the end of the day, I think that networking and having a mentorship circle is the most important if I had to choose, because without that guidance and feedback, it's a lot different. It's more hands-on than just reading a book or listening to an audio book or, a podcast. You get consistent feedback more frequently and you're able to help each other out as well. It goes both ways. So yeah, I would say networking and mentorship would be my top if I had to choose.
We're getting this, guys. We're getting a system. So just a follow up for you, Laura, would you, as far as like seeking out that networking and seeking out a mentor, do you have any advice for anyone how they might go along that journey?
Yeah, so I was fortunate that I had some connections already through the company I wanted to work at, but LinkedIn is, my current manager, I met him through LinkedIn. So just reaching out to people on LinkedIn, always sending a message when you invite someone to connect, though, not just cold connecting or cold messaging, but explaining who you are and what your intentions are. Having that LinkedIn etiquette is very important. But yeah, LinkedIn was huge for me. Like posting frequently. There was a while there that I was posting like every single day because the algorithm will feed, certain information to you, and you'll also be more visible to other people that are interested in hiring. So yeah, if you're trying to network, also going to meetups like this one is a good way to meet people. I know Nicole has a UX helpers club that she started. So I went to that and I met people there, and that was helpful as well, getting that feedback.
Guys, I'm so excited. We're going fast. Miss Rina, how about you? Did you have any particular path in as far as finding a mentor or networking? Have any opinions about either of those? Any books or podcasts that were helpful in your education and getting to know things?
Sure. So I'm not a big reader, but I have read a couple things. I'm more of a trial and error kind of person, being the prototyper that I am. I like to just prove out and try. I would say if I had to kind of, in a nutshell, explain to the benefit of someone else just getting into the field, finding my voice was a big thing. It took a very long time to be comfortable with my gut had questions and I wanted to ask, but I was afraid to ask. I was afraid to complicate things. I was also shy in a way. And I was also afraid to assert or challenge something that didn't feel right. I think that's huge. So finding my voice is not something that I read. It's just something that I experienced and I had to grow in. The trial and error part, just seeing the value that my questions brought to projects and to the team, being validated in that way, like, having permission to think the way I thought naturally. And even though I didn't really have a label for it really necessarily, finding pioneers in UX or HCI, because their brains work very similarly, networking to echo that, wanting to be like certain people when I grow up kind of thing, so paying attention to what the pioneers are doing or what they've done, the things that they have written, picking up books here and there. Susan Weinschenk, I believe is how you say your name. Her stuff really resonated with me. I started reading a couple of her books. I'm kind of like a start a book, put it down, live what I've learned so far kind of thing, and then pick it up later. But her stuff is good. The book Flow, which is more psychology than UX, Flow, the psychology of optimal experience, that was huge in just understanding humans, I think. And that really helped. from an empathy perspective. It helped me learn about me, but also the people around me. And that kind of leads into leaning into things like personality tests and just being very curious about myself, about other people, trying to understand how people operate, why their behaviors are the way they are. So it's really just a more hands-on, organic growth experience rather than a book smart kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of been my experience in learning.
Cool. And Miss Nicole, that was an errant thumbs up. Miss Nicole, how about you? Networking, mentorship, any great books, any good podcasts, any just advice that you can add on that would help people in like, how do you just expand your mind and your network and your people?
So networking is very important. Took me a while to figure it out when I first started out in the boot camp. Didn't like it, but I knew I had to do it. I was very introverted, had to get over that very quickly. But yeah, networking, LinkedIn was very important, getting to know the people that I worked with. I love using collaboration to not only get to know the people that, work in different areas that I am not in, but also it helps to learn additional skills that I need to brush up on. So collaboration is very big for me. Not too big on podcasts that are like UX related. And I do read a lot of books, but I think the one that is most helpful, I guess, for anyone that can read it, because it's important to build relationships with not only like the people that we work with and our users, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Because, we not only have to interact with our users every day, but we also have to interact with our business partners. We have to interact with our developers, our teammates, and we need to build those relationships, because at the end of the day, if we can like bridge those gaps, they're going to do a lot more for us in the end. It's very important. That's like one of the most important skills a UXer can have, beyond just like our normal like UXer skills. It's like one of the things I strive to do every day is create a new relationship in my space. So.
Thank you very much. Jason, have there, just because I feel like things have gotten clunky, any questions that have come in on the chat? Wonderful, thank you. That is helpful. I love reading, so I think that is great. Thank you for sharing that. Cool. Then I'm just gonna keep calling on people and asking questions. So, they're, and both in engineering, in UX, really any industry, there's going to be people who very much so advocate for specialization, and that's the thing that you need to do. And there are people who more advocate for having a general knowledge on that more like T-shaped type skill set. So what would you say would be, in your experience, both for yourself and seeing other people, specialist versus generalist? And we will start with, let's go with Laura first. Oh, I'm mute.
Oh, okay. I think we're good now. I knew you were going to call on me. It was weird. I was like, this is happening. This is a tough question. And my belief about this has actually changed over the last few months, because I was certain that I wanted to be a researcher when I started learning about design. And I think that's because I'm more comfortable with research than I am design. even though I still have so much to learn with research, because there are a million different methods out there and I know a fraction of them at this point. But as I've started actually working in design, I'm technically a UX designer, I've realized the importance of being able to visually communicate those ideas to your stakeholders. And so I used to think that, oh no, you can just do the research and show the numbers and whatever, and everyone will get it, the graphs and charts, and it'll be fine. But then I quickly realized, no, it's important to have that general knowledge of being able to both research and then design to visually represent your thinking and your findings. So I would go with more of a general breadth of knowledge, but I still feel like it's kind of personal preference. I think it's totally fine if you want to specialize, because that may be your style. But for me, it's more general.
I'm going to go with Rina, but I'm going to change it a little bit. What different, and you can just answer the original question if you don't have this, but what different specializations have you seen in your experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. Can you hear me? Making sure I'm muted. Yeah, so kind of a blend of the two questions. I feel like at the start, it's definitely helpful to be more general. What I would say, at least in my own experience, is that being more general likely exposes you to more opportunities. And you may never know like what your passion is going to be. I think I've gotten really good at marker boarding, diagramming, understanding complex problems and flowing those out. But as it relates to a vision or an experience, I wouldn't have known that in the beginning. So I had to be more general and ready to pitch in, you know, and just go with it and just explore all the edges. And then like my specialization just sort of bubbled up, right? And I enjoy design, especially Figma right now. The crazy nested component stuff, like that's been really fun to explore. So I think that there's seasons, little pockets of specialization and exploration and discovery. But I think the longer you're in UX, probably the more obvious or aware you are of what your strongest points are, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Switching the question just a little bit, staying on the same topic. Nicole, have you ever seen a specialization pigeonhole someone in their career in a way that might have been detrimental to their progress?
Ooh, that one's interesting. I don't think I've seen it myself, but I do worry about it. It's a conversation I've actually had recently with my manager, because the conversation has come up for like, what's the next steps? Because, you know, there's talks of possibly moving on to that next step for myself. And I was like, well, we do not have a staff researcher in our space. You know, is it something to where we're going to open up that? Should I apply for that part? You know, but do I want to be stuck as a staff researcher, or would I rather keep it as just a staff UX designer and not be stuck at that title? Because if I move up beyond staff researcher, do I have to be stuck as like, you know, that for the rest of my time at Home Depot? So I haven't seen someone go through that problem, but I don't want to be the first person to experience that or experience it myself. So that's an interesting one. I think that would be one to maybe, I think with Rina having more experience on that side, maybe she'd have a better perspective on that one.
Yeah, I think I would add like what I've seen since being at the Home Depot. I've been here a little over a year, and I think it's more apparent at Home Depot and just the way we have our roles structured. I haven't been in as structured of companies, design teams, or as large, but I think there is the idea that you can be too comfortable with just the design piece and not enough of the research, or even vice versa. So I would just recommend intentionally embracing all aspects. And that's going to be the more general route for a younger UXer getting into the field. And then as you feel your way through those edges or those different corners, I think that you can specify your preference or what you think your strength or your specialization is. But I wouldn't lock into, I'm more of the visual designer or I'm more of the researcher. I think that there's strength in being a bit more broad than that, if that helps.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies. Erin, this was a question that you had given to us. Was there anything in your head when you were giving that question to us that hasn't been covered yet?
Yes. So in part of my UX journey, about midway through, I started teaching UX and design at an online boot camp called Skill Crush. And this was a question my students asked me a lot. So I thought it would be a good question to pose here. But I think in my experience and my perspective, because UX kind of incorporates all these different backgrounds, all these different skill sets, and it's easy to like move around and into, I don't really see as much of the like skill-based like pigeonholing as Amy called it. But I think something to keep in mind is, especially on the product side, it can be a little scary if you get a very deep industry specific context. And it's scary because you look more appealing to other companies in that same industry, and they're more likely to give you the opportunities. And it can be harder to switch to that context of like, customers and users you've deeply understood over the years, or industry and business needs and contexts you've understood deeply over the years. So that, I think that's like one like refraction of this, like getting stuck in a particular area that doesn't get thought about as much, the industry context.
Cool. Thank you. I have just some wrap-up questions I'm gonna do. I just want to make sure, is there anybody here that had any questions that they'd like to pose to any of the panelists? A general question or one for a specific individual? Yes, ma'am. Do you want to come up here and talk on the business? I think if I move, I'm gonna ruin the whole system.
First of all, thank you to the panel this evening, just kind of like taking your time out and talking to us. This is very helpful. My question is around artificial intelligence, as ChatGPT is becoming a lot more popular with every aspect, and ChatGPT 4 coming out, where they kind of shared that if you upload an image, it can convert into a piece of code, into a website. So I guess my question to you guys is, do you guys use any AI tools today? And if you do, what part of, I guess during your design process, where do you use AI tools, and how your design process has changed if you include AI tools in your process? Three-part question, sorry.
Any particular person want to field that?
I've got some kind of an answer to that. So recently we did use ChatGPT to generate placeholder text for some prototypes we were making. The product area that I work in at 15.5 is all about reviews. So if you think about like the annual review that you do with like your manager and your team, and we just added a new feature around role-based competencies. And so we needed to generate like long descriptions for role-based competencies for all these different roles and skills. And it was like a lot to sit down and handwrite all of those. So we used ChatGPT to generate some. It was great,
Cool. Our remote panelists, do any of you have any experience with this? And I'm going to mute and someone can talk.
I've not used it. I'm a skeptic of AI personally. I mean, in as far as visual, like, you know, whatever they call it, I'm not like very strong in my knowledge of AI, but I've seen some of the results, and the hands and the eyes just kind of throw me off. So I'm a skeptic, but no, I haven't used AI. I haven't, in the projects that I'm working on, we're not really talking about AI. We are talking a little bit here and there about machine learning. And I think that there's opportunity for both. But we're in such an early stage of both of those. I personally feel like that we're not sure how to leverage it, right? And how it can actually be pragmatic and purposeful instead of just, oh, this is a thing, let's go and try to use it. That is how innovation can happen, right? Let's explore this thing and play around with it. But I think that's where we're at. I don't know of any intentional usage outside of the more machine learning route. And as far as like thinking through the complex problems, you know, that we're faced with, I work specifically in supply chain at the Home Depot. There's a lot of machine learning and number crunching that you could do, but like, I don't know, it's really hard for me to agree that AI can replicate what the human brain can do. So I still err on the side of humans are very relevant.
Cool, thank you. So in the interest of time, unless anyone else had any other questions that popped up in their brain. It's still unmuted, so no one anywhere else talking.
Hi, thank you. So a lot of us here are probably like on the newer side, and I know you said not to get too specific and to say general at the beginning. Are there any universal skills that are just really helpful at the beginning that we should maybe be focusing on that'll help us get our foot in the door?
Great question, Amy says.
All right, I'm gonna mute and I'm gonna let one of you ladies take it away. We haven't heard from, I don't know who else, someone who I haven't heard in a minute.
Yeah. Work on your communication skills first and foremost, because you have to talk to a ton of people, your business partners, your developers, other UXers. Communication is key, no matter who you're going to deal with on a daily basis. Like I deal with a lot of junior UXers inside and outside of Home Depot, and that is a big one because you can come in and we can work on like UX soft skills all day, but it's very hard to teach you communication, communication, public speaking, work on those things. That is like number one. Rina, I know you probably being a staff, you work with a lot of that too. So please weigh in.
Yeah, I was in the middle of typing, but just in case I couldn't speak, but I would say universal concepts include personas. That term, if you Google personas, you get a lot of different things. I think being a more pragmatic instead of like, I'm not driven by creating assets just out of vanity or like presentation. That sounds horrible, but I'm very pragmatic in my approach. So anytime that there are assets, personas, service blueprints, diagrams, whatever, understand the why behind it. If you don't understand why you're creating those things, you need to step back and understand what it is that you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to uncover, what do the stakeholders or what does the project need? What clarity are you trying to design out of those assets? Yeah, and the other thing that came to mind was more interaction design related, but like states. What are the states of things? That's something that I feel like I have a LinkedIn post out there about the states. That means like for a given screen, there's an empty state. You need to think through things like that. Like, will the user ever experience nothing? right? And be intentional about that. So there's a lot of different states that you can think through, or it could be the micro interactions in the page. So this is very design centric that I'm saying, but I feel like there's still a gap in thinking there, and that can directly tie to flow as well. So as you're diagramming out a process flow or a journey, and you're trying to understand the steps that a user is going through, that can actually aid in that more design centric thinking about the states and things like that. So that's probably a very short list, but those are things that popped in my head, if that helps.
I'll turn on my speaker. One question from the online audience. Kimberly Cruz asked, my question is, what are your opinions towards how to learn UX? A bootcamp can be expensive and not guaranteed to find a job in UX, but self-learning can be difficult without the extra support that bootcamps provide. As someone new to learning UX, the self-taught route, it's harder without guidance or guarantee I'm handling my time correctly. But then again, the cost of bootcamp gives sticker shock. That's something we hear a lot with the Meetup and something we talk about a lot here. So anybody have any specifics, responses to that? Rina, you're still on Spotlight, and you said you had several LinkedIn articles about that.
Yeah, I mean, just about a lot of the topics we're talking today. I also could not really digest the sticker price. I'm later in my career, but because I'm so organic, I've had this imposter syndrome that has driven me to wonder, should I go to a boot camp? It'd be a little odd probably for me to show up there, but I would still learn a lot. I think there's huge value in those boot camps. I think there's huge value in like taking a course online and just self-learning. Something that I've told other people, younger people, or people thinking about getting into the industry is find something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's a product, a physical product in your home, something that you, or a space, something that you, it bothers you. Maybe use that as a catalyst for your thinking to springboard your thinking process, right? And design something better. Like the natural process of thinking through what is the problem? Why do you, as a user, why am I struggling with this thing? And then the steps that you go through out of curiosity and trying to understand, like, how could this be better? What are the requirements? What do I have to have? What can I get rid of? Like, that's a really nice process, a really nice exercise to give it a try, if that makes sense. It may still not be big enough from a motivation perspective to keep with it, but it might be a good place to start.
You also need to like take your time and evaluate all the boot camps. Not all of them are created the same. There's several different courses online. I've looked into a lot of them just so that I'm informed when I do have these conversations with people who reach out to me. There's several ways to get into UX, and to go about it. And sometimes you just have to really decide, is it worth making the change for your career? Sometimes you have to put money into bettering your situation if it's what you truly want to do. Yeah, General Assembly was a little expensive, but it was well worth the change in the end. So you just kind of have to evaluate your situation and what you can do.
My feelings on General Assembly are mixed. I'm very grateful that I've landed my job, but I feel like a lot of that was because of the networking that I put in to get where I am. Not that I wouldn't credit them to teaching me. I mean, they definitely did, but there's still, like, when Rina, this triggered this thought when you mentioned the imposter syndrome, because I suffer so badly with that every single day. And I often think, maybe I should go back and get a master's degree in UX or something, like, or computer interaction, human computer interaction. And I battle those thoughts like every day. I'm like, there's so much that I don't know. So even after spending the 15 grand, I still feel like I don't know everything, but I'm also trying to accept that that's okay, because if you're in a supportive environment, people are like, it's okay, you learn on the job. Like even today, one of the staff UXers on my team was like, you are doing fine. Like you learn as you do more projects, like you're not expected to know everything. So knowing that, I don't know if that's helpful to hear that, because the imposter syndrome is real, but it sounds like even people that have been in the industry for a long time still experience that, which is oddly comforting. So that's just my 2 cents on the General Assembly boot camp.
So we are at time. I want to thank all of our lovely, amazing panelists for joining us. I don't know if we have time for parting wishes from anybody, but
Yeah, we have a couple of things.
okay.
So,
Okay.
I'm not sure which camera we can use here. This one doesn't seem to have a camera. All right, cool. I can just turn this. That's cool. All right. First of all, thank you everyone that's here in person for your patience. Everyone online, I know that there have been some technical hiccups, but you all have been amazingly patient. Erin and everyone online, I'm sorry, I can't see everyone right now. So I thank you all for sticking with us and being a part of Do UX. We heard earlier that being a part of a community and networking with folks makes a difference. So being here can help a lot. It helps us learn and grow. It also can help you connect with people in different ways. If you go back out to the Meetup site, all of the folks that were on the panel, their LinkedIns are there, and connect with them. Like they said, like leave a message why you want to connect with people and what you're trying to do with your career. I'm certain that at some point you'll make the right connection. Not everybody can connect with each person, so just try and keep at it. And let me see, just thank you all. I don't know if we should jump to the slides. There are some events. Maybe we'll just post them into the Meetup because we're a little bit at time right now. What do you think, Jason? You want to try to go through them, or? There are a few events that are coming up, and some of them might be really helpful for folks that are new coming into it. Before we do that, though, how about an applause for everybody that was. Everyone, thank you. Really taking your time out of your evenings to be here. Appreciate it greatly, and what great wisdom you all brought. It's just so awesome. Also, like, please, keep in mind it is International Women's Month, and I am so proud that you all were able to be here, a part of our community. And women in technology is a big deal. So if you know someone that's thinking about getting into technology, encourage them. Please ask them to be a part of this, because it can make a big difference in equity and equality across our spaces. So I highly encourage that, and I'm sure everyone on the panel will do that too. Let me see, we're going to talk about events that are coming up. We've got the, let me see, annotating designs for accessibility. So annotating designs can be a big deal. If you take a screenshot of the QR code there, we are recording this too, so we'll post this on YouTube if you want to try to get back to it. But this could be an interesting meetup. It is San Francisco based, so keep in mind it's pretty late in the evening, 10 o'clock at night. So, but maybe they'll record it. We'll see. So we'll go on to the next one. Orlando Code Camp is March 25th. So that one is at Seminole State Community College. You can go there if you're local and connect with these folks. It's a great way to kind of be interactive with developers and PMs and kind of learn. And it's free. I think all of these things that we're posting are free. So thank you. Yep. And let me see. And what else do we have here? UX design, building bulletproof case studies. Let me see, that is by Bonanza Design. It was posted out on one of the Slack channels, so if you get a chance to connect on Slack, highly recommend that as well. Let me see, and then this is also a group that offered, they've got a conference coming up in October, so you've got a little bit of time to register for this. Let's see, or are we, sorry, go ahead.
No, it just isn't going.
Oh, okay, is someone here, they want to cover this? Okay, yeah. You want to, actually, I've got the microphone here. People can hear me.
Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're at time. Yeah, so I'm Sonia Stevens. I'm organizing this conference, SIGDoc. It's about communication design. It's a mix of academics and practitioners where the reason I'm here is just, I actually just found out about this group and we're hoping to get some practitioner perspective. So if you're interested in presenting on, workplace trends or using technologies, someone mentioned ChatGPT and how you folks are using it. I teach at UCF and we would like to know how these things are going. So if you have questions about it, send me an email. You can go to our conference website as well.
Thank you for being here too. I'm glad that we could cover that as well. That would have been a real bummer if we hadn't done that and you came. So, oh, that's all right. That's all right. And then we need your help. If you want to volunteer, please let us know. It would be amazing to have you help figure out audio. That would be amazing. And let me see, and we'll move past that, but reach out to one of us on LinkedIn. And then afterwards, we're having social UX here right next door at 1010. Thank you, 1010. And for the people in person, we may have a drawing here in a minute. So thank you for attending. And I think that's it. Let me see. Oh yeah, thank you. So let me move this out of the way. If I can find the mouse. So yeah, connect with us on obviously Meetup, you're here. We do have a YouTube as well, and Orlando Design Slack, I mentioned that. They do have a jobs channel. There are some other Slacks that are out there. I think we've got one more slide here that if you want to take a screenshot of this QR code, I know you can't see all of these links, but it's a link to a post that I kind of try to keep updated on LinkedIn so that you can find different types of entry-level access to different things and recommendations for folks that are looking to break into UX or start their career in this field. Again, thank you to the panel so much. Thank you for my peers and colleagues, and so much Erin and also Amy for just being patient. And you know what? We should also give a shout out to Christian for getting the speaker to work. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Hey, I'll message you guys on Slack. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.